I entered the writing and art world at a time when political activism based on identity politics was a necessity. At that time, in the early 90s, minority voices were vying with artists from the dominant arts for resources, for visibility in exhibition spaces, in critical review, and so on. Now, the struggle and the real need to create in the work itself a portrait of a culture, of underrepresented communities and artists, it certainly made for an era of very exciting and interesting work. Often the body, one's skin, food, one's particular brand of English were the obvious and much used markers of one's heritage, and featured in artwork and writing prominently. The 1970s feminist phrase, the personal is political, and it's sometimes said the private is political, is of course as true as ever. I've come to see that every act and subject of art making and writing, yes, regardless of the subject, is a statement and revelation of one's very personal and private politics. I think artists and writers, cultural producers in general actually, who are engaging with imagery and language, have a responsibility to know and mean exactly what we're portraying and saying about ourselves and about others, about our world in our work. You know, another artist might disagree with me and say, I have no responsibility to anyone but myself. I am duty bound to no one. I have heard artists say this. The thing is, individualism, it's super important for us as artists. But so is the intelligence to know that what we do is influential and helps create our future time, our world's future time. What drew me to the arts originally still holds. You know, political work was and it remains a necessity, but I know now that my political activism has become a very natural part of my work. I don't have to force it into the work. I am very conscious of the way I use language, and I'm very conscious of the kinds of imagery that and how I position myself in making imagery. It does not have to be the blunt subject or topic of my work anymore. It is built in, it's inevitable rather than imposed. Time is short, and these days I want to return to that original impulse. Yes, it's almost a pedestrian impulse, but you know, that simple love of landscape. Actually, at a time when land and all the earth and what that encompasses is under serious and life-threatening pressure, perhaps that love isn't really all that simple. I do sometimes feel it's urgent, in fact. And just as crucially, a love of the manipulation of the tools of capture. For me, to photograph this land to which I am an immigrant, and yet which is my home, puts me in conversation with other photographers and painters here in Canada, regardless of our background, but who contemplate the land and our tenuous presence in it as recent settlers. We, recent settlers, are creating an image bank of the land, but we're creating it from particular sets of culturally biased points of view. And that is therefore as much about us as it is about the subject in the frame. It will be political no matter how we make this work, even if we stand back and say, no, I am not a political person. Of course we're political beings.